Meeting will come to order. Thanks to Representative Johnson, who made the great catch on the minutes. We have minutes in better order, and which you've already had a chance to look at. So should we look at the March 13th first?
I move the March, actually, I will move both.
Okay.
March 13th and March 20th minutes. I've reviewed them, that they appear to be correct.
All right. Any other changes or corrections to the minutes? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the minutes are approved, and thanks Representative Johnson for that. And we have House File 2542 before us. We were under amendments, and I think we have three more. And we'll begin, Representative Salk, with the A8. You can just, you can do it from your seat. Unless you have a testifier you want to join you.
No,
No.
I don't think.
Okay. Representative Salk moves the A8.
Got to get the paperwork in front of me. I'm looking at the minutes.
Should have warned you.
So the amendment basically is trying to expand a couple of elements that are already part of the normal function of supporting more affordable housing. And so on the A8, you'll see the section subdivision 4, which is adding manufactured home parks as one of the identified users or approved users for the home improvement fund money. Then under section 6, again, it's a matter of adding the manufactured home parks for that particular funding stream, and then also following down in 116, again, is the addition of manufactured homes defined in a longer term simply because of the definitions that the product will use when it's in that kind of funding. So it's basically adding those kinds of things, additional uses. And I notice also in 2.6, I should mention that one, where an added use would be for acquisition purposes.
And Representative Salk has been a believer that manufactured homes are one of our answers to affordable housing and has been a constant.
Yeah, I'm pretty persistent about that dialogue. If you think of buyers of home and housings in strata, because we always do that, we got homes that we know some people can afford that others can't, and that sort of thing, but the strata keep going. But you get down into the very lowest strata, it's very difficult to find anything at all that is available in the market. And when you do that kind of analysis, you will find in almost any community that mobile homes will fit in on that particular level. In fact, I was chatting with the MFHA gentleman out in the hallway, and we had a lot of dialogue about how we as a society, if you will, or a community, are addressing the needs of the people that fall to the lowest levels of income, both affordability and or qualifications. So that's, you're right, I'm very passionate about how important it is that we have things for that group of people to use.
Representative Johnson.
Chair Hausman, this is actually a very good amendment in my area. Actually, not so much in my district, but just north of me. There's a lot of manufactured and modular homes. It's a great way to start out. It's a great starter home. The manufacturing of them, the way they're built now is totally different than they were 40 years ago. A lot of them, if you go into, you'd never even know that they were a modular home. So I think this is a good amendment.
Any other questions or discussion to the amendment? All in favor?
I'll just make one more point. And another thing that some people still have to get in their head, and that is there is underlying funding that's available in the market through various agencies, more than just one, that will fund and support through loans and mortgages the purchase of mobile homes. So they are a fluid part of the market as well. Thank you.
No further discussion. All in favor of the A8 amendment, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, that amendment is adopted, and I think we'll move on to the A5, and I believe that is Representative Tice.
Madam Chair, at this time, I'm not going to do it.
Okay. A5 has been withdrawn, and there is an A7, which is Representative Johnson.
Madam Chair, members, we heard quite a bit about this issue dealing with the lease agreements around the University of Minnesota. I'm doing some checking in my community and other places around the state. It just seems to be the issue is pretty much located around the university. And so what this amendment does is pretty much just keeps it in the city of Minneapolis where the university is located the actual bill doesn't hurt the rental issues that, and the rental properties that we have in the rest of the state where we already have other issues with a very much lack of rental units. So this would just keep that issue confined mostly to the university area where they're having the issue.
And Representative Johnson, interestingly, we had a bill that did that. It was the Representative Dean bill, and we subsequently heard the Noor bill instead, which took it more broadly. I was thinking our Representative, I'm blanking, I'm so bad on names. Representative Munson is not here because he might have a feeling about if it just applies to Minneapolis landlords, that might be have a different point of view for him, however. Discussion to the A7. Representative Bierman.
Madam Chair, I have a son at the U who living in St. Paul, and he's facing the same thing with renters and renting in places like this right now. So, I mean, just him and his friends, he's had some conversation with us over the same issues, and I would take a more broad view of this. I think that putting lease restrictions, or I guess making sure that renters and landlords are clear about the terms of a lease and that this abuse as far as days go where they're cut off for cleaning and that sort of thing, that happens elsewhere too. And I think this is a good bill to protect tenants, and I think it's clear cut. I think it really needs to be for everywhere, not just the city of Minneapolis. That would be, if Minneapolis wanted to set their own restrictions, that would be a different deal, but I think it's a good bill for Minnesotans border to border.
I too would suggest a no vote on this for that very reason, that more broadly there are probably other people caught up in some of those same issues, so I would suggest a no vote on this amendment. Any further? Yes, Representative Johnson.
Madam Chair, members, around the university is a special area. They have, from the time their lease runs out to the releasing again, 2 weeks to redo every single apartment in those buildings. Does not give a lot of time. That just happens around the university. The rest of the state, except where there might be some colleges, not as big as the university, because the university is huge compared to the other campuses that we have across the state, it makes it a special situation around the university. Most places, apartment complexes across the state, it could be a 50-unit building. They might only have two apartments that are going empty at the end of a month, where they have time to get those units done. But if you start doing 100 units or more in a week or two, that's hard to do. And that's why it's special around the university. So I think this is actually would be good, even if we could narrow it down to the university area, a location around the university, I think that would be the way to go.
Coincidentally, I represent the St. Paul campus of the University of Minnesota. It's a couple of blocks from my house, and my granddaughter attends Hamline University in St. Paul, and has given me some of the complexity of her life as they rent, and so it probably is unique to college communities generally. Representative Bierman.
Madam Chair, one more. So my business is in the flooring business, and I do a lot of apartments, and I do a lot of care centers, and we're having to deal with turns all the time, and we're under that gun to get in late in the day and finish by noon the next day so the next tenant can move in. And so I know what renters and landlords are facing with that turn. You don't want to have days where you're not collecting rent. But one of the people I work with as supervisor at one of the retirement communities in Burnsville, he worked extensively and for years down in Mankato. And he said they have the same issue down there where it's a rush to turn buildings like overnight. And they have to bring in extra crews to do cleaning so that things get done. And I understand it's, there's a lot of work to flip those things and to get them cleaned up. But I just don't think it should be put on tenants ever to have to accommodate. And that's the main part of this bill is the date and getting that straightened out. And so I think it's more than just Minneapolis, and I would not want to see it just for Minneapolis. I think all these communities that deal with that, whether it's even if it's not even college stuff, I mean it's just the fundamental rule of paying for what you're getting for and understanding what those dates are. And landlords, they have to be very creative to get those turns done. They have to bring people like me in to get work done. But the other thing is tenants are accommodating. If there's something broken and it needs to be fixed and they want to move in, landlords and tenants can work together on that. We go in after the new people have moved in some cases and do the work while they're living there and have to move their stuff to one side or one room, and we work with them too, and we work with the landlord too. It can all be done that way. So I do it regularly. So I know what you're up against as far as landlords go. So I think I see both sides of it, but I think it's got to be a fairness issue. We need to protect people on not signing for a month when they don't get a month and allow cleaners, like you referenced, I have heard that cleaners, they get extra 2 weeks to clean, but then that just makes it so that they can come in on any day that works for the cleaning schedule. So the onus then is on the cleaners to pick up the slack.
Representative Pearson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, we get in this language where we're protecting one group over another, and the implication there is that there's abuse going on. And there's this one-sided aspect of this transaction. And the consequence of this legislation is an increase in the costs spread out over a narrower window of time with a limited labor market, which is just going to drive up the costs for doing the things that you've talked about. And the protections are there in this market. And again, what you're now doing is spreading that across the entire state of Minnesota. And I actually, when we heard this bill, we touched on the statute of frauds, the fact that these are one-year leases. Well, now they're under a year. So actually, they don't need to be in writing. You're actually creating a huge loophole that any landlord could drive their leases through without even getting these things in writing because it's for less than 1 year. So I really think that this component of the bill is ill-suited, and it's certainly ill-suited for any place outside of the protected market that we have this constituency that we're so concerned about. I would ask that people support the amendment so that it doesn't damage the entire rental market throughout the state of Minnesota, increase the cost for everyone, only negatively impacts those folks who are in the city of the first class. Is that the one we're on?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. That's above 400,000 people.
Representative Johnson, final comment?
Final comment is, I've actually worked with my father-in-law, working the 24 hours painting apartments. It's a lot of work. And then once the painters get done, then the carpet layers and the floors come in. Once that gets done, electricians come in to replace all the lights. When that gets done, the cleaning crew comes in to clean up after the mess. When you start doing 100 apartments in a complex but along the university, it gets expensive. I can see that. But when you're trying to do that again throughout the entire state of Minnesota with what this is requiring here, it's going to be a burden, and it's going to increase the costs. And with that, I request a roll call.
Roll call has been requested on A7. Oh, I'm sorry, we have one more speaker, Representative Hassan.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I just want to echo on on how important this bill is. Yes, we are protecting one group over another. We're protecting our poor Minnesotans. We're protecting students. We're protecting people who are, hacked by landlords all the time. And if it doesn't happen in some districts, lucky you, it happens in our districts a lot. We have landlords that are scheming tenants all the time, showing them nicer apartments, renting them to poorly, untaken care of units. So I don't support the amendment, and I think this is a good bill. Thank you.
All right, clerk will call the roll?
Hausman,
No.
Howard,
No.
Tice,
Yes.
Bierman. No. Fisher,
No.
Gunther, Hassan,
No.
Her,
No.
Hornstein, Johnson,
Yes.
Jurgens, Munson, Pearson,
Aye.
Poppy, Sock.
No.
Seven to three, this amendment fails. And that is the last amendment we have, members. And now it is to the bill, the delete all 2542 is before us. Any further discussion to the bill? Final passage on 2542. Pardon? Oh, I'm sorry, we have a testifier. I don't have an agenda in front of me, so I'm sorry. Please identify yourself for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. I know it's late and I'm standing between you guys and the
lost
door,
my
so
agenda from earlier.
I apologize. John Reynolds with the Minnesota Multi-Housing Association. We've testified on the eviction expungement portions of this bill before, so I won't rehash that testimony. There's also a memo in your packet. I just wanted to make two main points quickly. The first is the conversation this morning sort of got here, but every time we talk about landlord-tenant issues, you were really talking about three parties, not just a landlord, a tenant. We're also talking about everybody else who lives in a building that's affected by this legislation. And that's why tenant screening is important, because it's not just for protecting the physical and financial integrity of the property, and it's not just for the safety, it's also for the safety and welfare of other tenants, and to make sure that the applicant themselves can succeed in the rental unit, in the rental situation. And eviction records are a part of, not the only part, but a part of rental screening, because they may contain behavioral or payment history that is not available through other means. The second point is just that transparency and public records are important. Expungements are extremely narrow across the board, and particularly in the civil court context. And in fact, the narrow availability of eviction expungements now are the only types of civil court records that can be expunged. I think this is underscored, the importance of that is underscored for both tenants and landlords. The importance of it for landlords is obvious. You want to make sure that somebody can meet the screening criteria for the reasons I just said, which are that you want to make sure that they can succeed in the situation. The importance of it for tenants was underscored in the Governor's Housing Finance Task Force report, which as part of the recommendation said, quote, best practices should include transparency to allow renters readily access information they need to know about a landlord's track record regarding citations and eviction frequency. So limiting the availability of these records quite dramatically is going to infringe on that ability of renters. So I think the unfortunate outcome in some cases is going to be increased disruption and more evictions. But thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Other questions, Mr. Reynolds? Representative Hassan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Reynolds, do you believe in due process?
Yeah, I think
Mr.
that there
Reynolds.
is due process in the current civil court record, and I think that's why transparency is important to ensure that for the general public, as well as for landlords and tenants, that courts are getting, that we can know that courts are delivering fair and consistent and impartial outcomes, and that's why public records are important, and that's why court records are open.
Any follow-up?
Just one follow-up, Madam Chair. Mr. Reynolds, if you believe in due process, what we're doing with expungement is due process. When you file an eviction, no one should see that eviction until the court rules, until the final judgment. And there are plenty of evictions that have been wrongly filed. So no one should have, that should not be public information until the judge who sees that file makes the final note that says this is the right eviction or this is wrongfully filed. That's what we're doing. I just want to remind the committee. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Mr. Spade, would you want to address this as well? Welcome back, but please identify yourself for the record again.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Samuel Spade. I'm the attorney for Homeline. I think that we've talked a lot in this committee about the eviction process. I think one of the things that has been brought up, but I would like to touch on it again, is that this is the current process that we have was established a long time ago. We didn't foresee the wide use of electronics in the way that we have now. And unfortunately, it's created this system where there are simply tens of thousands of evictions that exist on people, many of whom shouldn't have had these evictions on their record in the first place. This simply allows people to have that removed from their record and allows them to rent or to have the opportunity to rent without these black marks on their record when they shouldn't be there. Landlords don't care why the evictions were filed. They don't generally look at who won. They simply care that it was filed. And that's the problem that tenants are facing as a whole, is that these evictions, regardless of the underlying issues, regardless of whether they were settled, payment plans, anything like that, they exist and they're affecting people, their families, the ability to rent, have a home, and continue with their lives.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Spade? I don't see any further questions or amendments. We're ready for final passage on House File 25. Representative Johnson?
Chairman Hausman, members, we haven't had any discussion on the bill itself yet, and I'm not sure if anybody wants any. But I do have some concerns on this bill, especially with the expungement issue. So I was sitting there thinking, a couple of years ago, we already changed the expungement record to make it easier to expunge those records. All a person has to do is, we did that, I believe, 3 years ago. Made expungement much easier. Also, doing this on the evictions, automatically expunging them or making them not available for the landlords to look into things. It's a liability issue for the landlords, and it's a safety issue for the tenants, the other tenants in that issue, or in that building. Because landlords want to make sure they have the best qualified and people that aren't going to hurt other members in the complex. But I also see a lot of other civil court cases being filed now. Landlords aren't the dumbest person on the street. We have some very good landlords, and we have some bad ones that are going to abuse the system no matter what we do. And I already can see how they're going to abuse the system again, so we'll be back here trying to deal with it. And that's going to be if they don't pay their rent and if they don't evicted for non-payment of rent, they're going to take them to court in civil court to get their money back that way, get a judgment on them. And that's going to show up for these people to see. And those are even worse, because now the judge has ordered, even though they don't live there, they might have 8 months left of their rent after they got evicted. They might have to go off 8 months' worth of rent. And some judges might do that because they violated the terms of their contract or lease agreement and they were evicted, but the judge might still find them liable for the rest of that rent. And that judgment will be on their record permanently, making it even harder for them to get find a place to rent. So, but that's just one of the few things that I have problems with in this bill. There's a couple good things, but there's a lot of bad things, so I cannot support it.
Thank you, Representative Johnson, which reminded me, I just pulled out the House Research Brief again. Ms. Dyson and Ms. Mullen went through it this morning, I think. And just to remind you, this is a composite of a number of bills that we have heard, and I'll just briefly talk about a few of them. One on notice and negotiation on a manufactured home park when the purchaser plans to convert the use of the park, make changes to the manufactured home park relocation trust fund program, maintaining affordability of publicly financed housing, changes 2018 language governing use of low-income housing tax credits, makes changes to the Minnesota bond allocation for residential rental housing. This was, going back to 2017, a number of stakeholders at the table. I don't know if they actually spent 2 years doing it, but though there were 5 items that were agreed to by all of the stakeholders, that is in this one. And then, of course, the one section that we're just talking about here. So that is the nature of the bill. I don't see any further discussion about that. The House File 2542 is before us for final passage. We don't have a roll call. No. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? House File 2542 is passed. Now, members, thanks to Representative Tice, also did a catch this morning on an amendment. Oh, I'm sorry. The announcement of that is that 2542 is being referred to Ways and Means. We're going to revisit House File 1402. We're just bringing it back, whatever you'd like.
Okay. Save about 20 steps up there. It's a lot of, we had to walk over to the Capitol, so. Thank you, Representative Tice. We've been working with stakeholders since we had the hearing this morning related to the amendment to the local housing trust fund that we adopted. We made some changes to that to clarify in an A3 amendment. So let me get my procedurally.
So members, we're bringing 1402 back to the table. And you've got a.
And first, I will move to reconsider the 1402 A2 amendment, which we had adopted previously this morning.
We are reconsidering, members, the vote on A2. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is before us again.
And I'll withdraw that amendment, Madam Chair.
A2 is withdrawn.
And now I would like to move the A3 amendment.
Representative Howard moves A3 to speak to the amendment, please.
And members,
And I think you've worked this through with stakeholders, too.
indeed, we've worked with stakeholders and I think found a solution that seeks to achieve the same goal, but without requiring a stakeholder task force. The amendment before us would simply state that before the agency makes any grants, that the commissioner shall consult with interested stakeholders developing the guidelines and procedures, rather than create a task force or a stakeholder group. And that is the contents of the A3 amendment.
Representative Tice.
Madam Chair, should we be reconsidering the bill or just the
This
amendment?
one we just held over,
Okay,
and so we just brought it back
Okay.
on the table.
thank you.
And in fact, we'll be holding it over today, too.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. And Representative Howard, glad that we got that cleared up so that we don't have to worry about it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Two good catches today.
And with that, well. do
Are there
we-
questions to the A3? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? A3 is before us, and now your bill is as you wanted it, and we will lay the bill over for possible consideration.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And I think we have finished. I don't see any other outstanding questions. We are adjourned.